What's up, guys? Welcome back to BlockHash Exploring the Blockchain, episode 304. Today, I have the CEO of Mazuri GameFi on to talk about what they are building in relation to gaming and blockchain. Inal, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yes, Brandon, you are.
Okay,
Hello, everyone.
cool. Inal,
My
welcome to
name.
the show, man.
Thank you. Very glad for you to have me here. I appreciate it. And honestly, this is my first podcast we're doing like this because, as you know, we've been mostly focused on product building instead of marketing recently. And I think this is a great first step in that direction.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Podcasting is a fantastic medium to really get some good conversations out there and talk more in depth and authentically about what you do in the space and kind of help enlighten people that might want to potentially be a part of your community or work with you guys at some point. So it's a fantastic medium, in my opinion. And don't worry, it's first podcasts, always are a little tricky, I think, the first time around. But, after that, they get pretty easy. It's just a matter of getting a rhythm, I think.
I mean, I did some public speaking throughout my career, and that allows me to have an easier time maybe here than others.
Hmm.
But aside from that, I'm sure it will go great. Well, again, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
Speaking of Missouri GameFi, if I may ask, right, I would
Hmm.
like us to talk about the GameFi genre in general, right, and how it's growing and how it's being affected by the current turbulence in the market, right? When it comes to GameFi, it's important to realize that gaming and GameFi right now are two different things because gaming in general is used for dopamine gain. It can have a story, it can be story driven, right? They're usually double A plus, triple A plus, and there are many different aspects to conventional gaming. With GameFi, it's mostly driven by for profits, right? So people, when people play GameFi, they usually play not because they necessarily like the gameplay, but because they can make tokens, which they can take to an exchange and convert to fiat and so on and so forth. And in my opinion, that is a very, very poor practice because that allows GameFi to be too much dependent on what's happening in the crypto market. In our case, Missouri GameFi, uh, the Fi aspect is just one of the aspects of our product because essentially we're just a really fun game, right? With an opportunity, yes, to use tokens, to make tokens, and to lose tokens. And that has to do with the economic model we chose, which is different to most other economic models they choose for GameFis. In our case, players can play not just for profit, but because they just like the game, because they don't have to spend a penny to play it. Um, Although, if you did not spend a penny playing Missouri GameFi, you're not going to be earning as much as somebody who spent money playing it. There.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you make about GameFi. There's a lot going on in the space trying to merge and create this intersection between blockchain and gaming right now. And a lot of these GameFi based projects and games have a large, I think, heavy focus on the finance aspect of it, the monetary aspect, everything from play to earn models to in-world staking and NFTs, that maybe they get away from, the actual game itself and maybe what is supposed to make it cool in the first place. Like they focus on the wrong thing. So it'd be interesting to kind of know a bit more about how you guys are tackling the financial aspect of it, which does have a place and is important. It's the whole point of GameFi, but at the same time, what you guys really are focusing on in terms of building out an experience for users and for players, and eventually creating a whole ecosystem.
In order to get into it, I would have to outlay what type of game it is.
Yeah, go
So
for it.
it's an open world MMO with real time fighting, right? And the main aspect of the game is PvP, and it's combat between two players. Uh, think about it as GTA without guns. So the year is 2040, right? Within the game floor, right? And every player is a fighter, but instead of having like a weapon wheel, like in GTA where you choose your weapon, you have big arsenal of strikes you can choose and equip your character with. Let's say I click my right mouse button, I do a right cross, then I press shift, and now my right mouse button does a right hook. And that's how you assign buttons to mouse pads, right? And the shifts. So every player can equip up to 8 different strikes in his striking arsenal, and he can also change his stances, which also changes the way like his fighting arsenal, because you equip them like you would equip weapons in a regular MMO. And it's not turn-based; it's real-time combat. So once the fight starts, it's kind of like taking a Mortal Kombat, or it would be most similar to Sifu, I would say. Amongst our developers, we have 3 people who used to work on big fighting games in the past. We have Misha and Nikolai, who used to work on Mortal Kombat 9 and 11. And we have Alex, who used to work on Taken timing and animations. Because, as I said previously, our biggest asset is our developers, which allows us to pump out whatever we want. Now, speaking of the financial aspect of the game, now that I said about it, the main financial interaction between the players and the main way players make money is different to most other GameFis. Historically, for some reason, it's been so that in GameFi, player earns from the project and project earns from new players coming in, which makes it into a Ponzi scheme, if you ask me. And it is unsustainable because at some point, new players stop flooding in, right? And you need to supply old players with something. If your old players who've been playing your game for a while were only playing it for money, as soon as new players stop coming in, no more money. No more money, all the players start leaving because that was the sole reason they were playing your game. In our case, we are trying to, first of all, pump up the gameplay aspect because it's fun. We have a build ready, and the closed alpha starts in February. So whoever owns an in-game apartment will be able to play it as well. Um, and in our economic model, players don't make money from a product. Players make money from other players. Uh,
How did they do
essentially,
that? How did they make money with other players?
So essentially, how it works. Let's say I'm walking down the street of Mazuri GameFi, right? I entered the game. In order to enter the game, it cost me set amount of tokens to get my character. I had to lock those tokens in, and I get my character. I walk down the street in the open world. I encounter you, right? And I'm like, screw it. I wanna duel this guy. So I propose you a duel, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna kick your ass. I bet 20 tokens, 2 rounds right now. You can either agree or disagree. If you agree, you have to even my bet to 20 tokens. We fight it out. You win. You take 38 tokens. 2 tokens get burned.
That sounds pretty simple.
Right? And what surprised me the most is that not a single GameFi yet has implemented this. Because for some reason, they're all trying to overcomplicate things.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to do this mechanic, then you lock this here, then you stake this there, then you restake it somewhere else, and you refinance your NFTs. Like,
Right.
and yeah, to me, it's overcomplication. B, it increases the retention rate of people, and the simpler it is, the better it is. And what's most important, we are a legitimate company. Like we're not an offshore. We're registered in Europe. We're a European company. And we have a crypto license in Europe, and we've contacted the regulators in Europe, the European regulatory system, and they said that this model is actually absolutely legal and it falls under our current license. It's not considered gambling. And the main reason it's not considered gambling is because there is no element of random. Uh, it's not like blackjack, right? So victory purely depends on player skill because every player has a block, every player has a
Mm-hmm.
parry, every player has a dodge, and everyone has the same amount of stamina and the same amount of health. Yes, you can fine tune your strikes into different variations of same strikes. For example, let's say I have a left jab and I use left jab constantly. I'm sorry. And I use left jab constantly within the game. At some point, I'm going to get an opportunity to upgrade it. And when I say upgrade, it doesn't mean it gets better, it gets different, right? I can make it faster, but it will deal less damage. Or I can make it hit harder, but it will be slower and take up more stamina. You see what I mean, right? So that
Right.
every player has the unique combination of skills and play style, which allows them to really feel into the game and progress through the game and have this sense of achievement. And now the game, as I said, is an open world, right? So it's a big city. So the way we integrate partners within the game right now, we either get them a place on the billboard somewhere in the game, because this is also unprecedented for now. Nobody has been advertising themselves within the in-game space yet for some reason, which is weird to me, because even with, let's say, even GTA 5 had so many opportunities for advertisement for bigger companies and bigger corporations, and nobody went in for it, which in my understanding, was wild, because that's exactly what we're doing. We recently signed with Everlast, so we're going to be making in-game NFTs of their sportswear, right? And players will be wearing them and walking around the city and fighting wearing the NFTs, and so on and so forth. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Every single NFT we make for Mazuri GameFi is a utility NFT. It's used in game.
Yeah, there's a lot of aspects there. The Everlast partnership, that's really cool, actually. That's a big company. And you're right, it is weird, I think, in most major games that they don't have major brands sponsoring in some kind of way. Like you play Call of Duty, you play Halo, you play um, GTA 5, but everything's like a knockoff version of it or a fake version or a replica version, but like you don't have Coca-Cola in the game or you don't have Nike in the game. Like you'd feel like they'd want that kind of exposure because of the foot traffic, right?
I
So
only learned why when I started working on this. When I started working with like game developers, I realized why that is.
what's the
Uh,
reason?
they don't want to do anything with the real world. That's not their idea, because
Interesting.
their understand of profits is from sale of game or sale of in-game merchandise, and they don't want to share that profit, and they have learned that there is this one way, right, to market the product and to sell the product, and they don't want to go outside that box, for the simple reason is that if it works, don't break it, which I perfectly understand. But in case of us, when it's first of all crypto winter, second of all, investors are scared to invest stuff into anything right now, and I'm very thankful that we decided to go with fundamental aspect first, because that allowed us to still be able to get money from people, from funds, from VCs, and so on, because they see that we're actually building something. I realized that they never thought about it because they never had the reason to. So the reason we
Right.
thought about, wow, might as well incorporate Everlast here. Let's incorporate whey protein here. Let's make players feed their characters so they keep them in good shape or whatever. This is not in the game, by the way. I'm just talking out of my ass right now, but I'm just giving an example. Uh, so that allows us for integration of many different potential partners, because, as I said, right now right now we are doing the following two things, right? Raising capital and bringing on more people on board, because we already have a team. Having the team, not having too much capital or too many people on board, that allows us, when we go to other projects and to other companies, for example, our conversation with Everlast was the following. I was like, yo, guys, um, we can build anything for you, right? We can integrate you in the game. This is a product. This is what it's going to look like. They liked how the build looks. They played the build a little, and they said, wow, this is amazing, but we've never done this before. So this is your opportunity to do it, and you won't need to do much for it. Let's do this. We're gonna put you in this arena, right, on this billboard right here. So we send them the screenshots of the insides of in-game locations. Uh, we're gonna give you 70% of profits from gross sale of NFTs with your brand on it, which will be the gloves, the shorts, the athletic wear, hoodies, and so on and so forth, which we're making right now. Uh, but in return, you give us X amount of money, fiat or USDT, doesn't matter, under the contract, right? And you're going to get set amount of Mazuri token vested to you for a set period of time. And if our contract is dissolved prior to set period of time, you don't get the tokens. And they agreed. So that.
Nice. No, that's really cool. That's a good partnership to have. Tell me a bit more about the NFTs. So those are going to be heavily utility based within the game. I'm sure Everlast, partnering with you guys is also going to be incorporated into the NFTs as well. Are these going to be used as like wearable items for your character, or perks, or power ups, or what will they be used for primarily?
Primarily, they are cosmetic or they help life improvements, essentially. So
Hmm.
the NFTs we have in game are in-game real estate. We call it cyber estate, which is needed in order to rest your character, because the biggest issue that most games, especially MMOs, deal with is bots. The best way to deal with bots is to limit the amount of time player can play the game, which sounds counterintuitive, but we can work around it by implementing in-game is apartments. And the more luxury your apartment, the closer it is to downtown, the faster your character recovers, which on one hand allows us to reduce the amount of bots that are siphoning liquidity out of other players, because again, nobody is getting paid from us, everyone is getting paid from everybody else, which allows us to stay afloat and just be essentially the regulator of everything, right? While people are dealing with the funds however they want to deal with the funds. All we do is burn a set amount of funds constantly to keep up the to promote token growth. I'm sorry.
No
Anyway,
worries.
um, speaking of NFTs,
Hmm.
our NFTs are all utility based, but none of them actually improve your chances of winning. You see what I mean?
Hmm.
Like we have our brand ambassadors who are actual like UFC fighters, boxing, bare knuckle fighters, and so on, who are already winning the game. And we made NFTs of them. And if you buy an NFT of them, you get yourself that avatar essentially right within the game. When you are on a ranked tournament in a boxing ring, he's going to be in your corner. He's going to be rooting for you. He's going to teach you one super attack, and he is what it's called. And you get an exclusive vehicle skin for owning that specific fighter. And we're doing
Hmm.
the same thing with all fighters of the same ranking. Now, the idea behind the attacks is that, as I said previously, every single strike is an NFT of its own. But all players, all new players will get a basic strike, like basic strikes, basic eight, I think. Yes, basic eight strikes. Every single player is going to get. But they're also free to purchase additional ones or to win additional ones, because we're also going to be giving them away for fulfilling quests within the game and so on and so forth. Let's say initially you have a classic like MMA fighter, strike and arsenal, but you want to fight like a karate kid with karate chops and shit.
Hmm.
So you might as well buy that, because if that suits you, sure, because it's just flavor. The biggest thing here is balancing, because we are making it that we're making it so that no matter what striking combo you have, anyone can defeat anyone as long as they have highest skill of gameplay, better reaction time. That's the main idea.
Yeah, I like the focus on the skill set. It makes it so everyone, can get better at it and they can find a way to gain a competitive advantage, to beat the competition and really stand out. Have you guys thought about maybe taking this to like competitive gameplay at something, maybe doing a tournament, doing something a bit more high
Absolutely, yeah.
profile?
Absolutely, yes. So we have a few people. We have a team of 76 people, right?
Hmm.
So we have people who have done all types of things in gaming. And a few guys, like Max, he's our chief strategic, what it's called in English, I forgot. My first language is not English, so sometimes I forget. Anyway, Max
Hmm.
is the chief of strategies. He used to work at Wargaming for 8 years. Wargaming is a company that made World of Tanks, and they had and still have, I think, big esports
Hmm.
events. And so he's essentially the one that takes care of the balancing system. He's the one that brought aboard a lot of developers, a lot of talents we have, because of Max knows them personally from Wargaming, and he brought them over. And that allows us to focus on the balance aspect of the game, which is crucial to having a successful esport, because you can't build a product and into an esport right away. A product becomes an esport if it has certain qualities of an esport. For example, StarCraft, right? It's easy to learn, hard to master. That's, I think, is a Blizzard memo. Counter Strike, same thing. Easy to learn, hard to master. What else we got? Rainbow Six, easy to learn, hard to master. So that's like the main theme here, and it has to be there has to be an opportunity for a victory for every single player who's good enough. No matter what strike and arsenal he has, how many NFTs he's bought, he can be brand new, just straight out of the gate, or he can be playing the game for, I don't know, for 1,000 hours. If the one that's playing for 1,000 hours is not playing well, and the noob who came in has good reaction time and full understanding of his strike and arsenal, which is basic still, the noob is going to win.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Are you guys actually going to do some kind of like a tournament at some point, or is that something that's just kind
Absolutely.
of in the works? Or
That is in the works because right now, as I said previously, we
hmm
are pumping out the closed alpha in February. We're gonna let
hmm
in the initial closed alpha testers to test out the game, see how they like it. If they don't like
got it.
something, we're gonna change it up for the beta test. Within the beta test, we plan on implementing the character customization so they can already use their attire NFTs to dress up their characters differently. And that allows us to then focus more on already city building. So the plan is the following, right? Fighting mechanic, which is like
hmm
combat mechanic, which is like the main thing, the main aspect of the game. Then character customization, then city building,
Got
and
it.
then later on down the road, we're implementing racing. But that's something to talk about later.
Racing. Oh, that'll be fun.
Yes, the problem with racing is very much it's hard to do it not pay to win,
hmm
because cars are NFTs, and some cars are better than other cars. The only way we thought about maybe implementing it is putting them in different classes. So, like a sports car will not be racing against an SUV. They will be racing in different uh, brackets.
hmm
And when it comes to roads too, like the trails or whatever they called in English, it depends on what car you have, how well it's going to perform on that specific trail. So if I have a BMW X5 series, I'm gonna perform better on a curvy road than I don't know than a Honda Civic. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Do you guys have a an opt-in or referral program for beta access for people that might want to get in a bit early after alpha?
Yes, actually we do. We call it Quest. So we're
hmm
using Quest 3 for this program. Essentially, what you have to do, you have to follow our social media, and you have to get two more people to do the same. So once you do that, you get 10 tokens for free, unlocked to you, fully unlocked straight to your wallet, and you get the beta access key, which allows you to join the beta test as soon as the beta comes out, which is estimated to be somewhere in the middle of spring.
Okay, got it. So alpha's rolling out. Okay, I'm trying to get an idea of the timeline here. So alpha's rolling out this month, next month,
February.
February. Okay, and
February.
then later in the spring, beta. And then, do you guys have a tentative date to fully launch, or is it just really dependent on how this, starts out?
It depends on how well the players take the alpha and then how well the
hmm
newer players take the beta, because we are doing something different to other games, and I'm not sure if it's good or bad, it's just different.
hmm
What we're doing is we're building the game with the community, not just for the community. You see what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Because like in this case, these are the people that are kind of paying for this whole thing. So we might as
hmm
well make it so that they like it and make it the way they want it to be. So we, I would say, have this sense of an already existing and regulating DAO within the game, even though there is no DAO structure right now. So let's say whenever we come up with a new model or new concept within the game of a new NFT, we send the concept to our community chat. We do it poll. The poll votes. We choose whatever the poll chose the most, right? And we do that, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. And we hold streams for the community members every Friday, and during those streams, that's essentially an AMA session where people ask me questions, I respond them, and then I ask them questions, and they respond. So it's very, very transparent, I would say, because ever since day one, we were talking to the community actively, because we could afford to do so because there wasn't too many of them. I don't know how it's going to go when it's a lot of them, but I'm going to try my best to still have a conversation going.
Absolutely. Where's the community at? Is it on Discord, Telegram, or do you have another
Mostly
medium?
Telegram.
Okay.
Mostly Telegram. Most of our communities on Telegram. Discord kind of died out, honestly, in the past,
Hmm.
especially during the crypto winter, because all the crypto gurus who were like rocking and like moving a little big amounts of people from point A to point B, they disappeared. And then once Bitcoin broke 19,000, they all came back in the games.
Right.
So yeah, so to me, it's very funny, honestly. I mean, I respect the grind. I respect the grind.
How do you think this past year has affected not just, blockchain, crypto, and Web3, but specifically the gaming and GameFi industry? And where do you think this is going to go into 2023 as you guys are one of the players leading the market here? You guys are launching for the first time this year. And also applying, I think, the the finance aspect in such a different way. It'll be interesting to see how that relates with people in the community and how that kind of builds up for you guys. So kind of summarize that. That's kind of long-winded question, but um, how do you think 2022 affected GameFi, and how do you think it's going to go in 2023?
That's a very good question, honestly, and I have thought about it for a long time, ever since the new year. So, in essence, I already have an answer prepared. That's why I'm really happy you asked it.
Cool.
In essence, the way that last year affected GameFi specifically is that, first of all, many projects died, and most of the projects are projects that could not support their talents. And supporting talents means you have to be willing to give up something, some part of yourself, part of your equity, part of your tokens, part of your allocation, whatever it is, part of your time and emotions and heart, because these are people that are trying to give value to others, right? And in order for them to produce cumulative value together, you have to offer them something in return as well. And what last year showed is that too many founders and CEOs are not willing to sacrifice what's necessary to sacrifice in order to get the products out. And that's one. Second, this market used to be too much profit oriented, which allowed for problems to arise, such as what happened to X Infinity, for example, which showed to be unsustainable. So every single GameFi model that has been intact last year and has died last year was a model where project makes money from newer players and older players make money from newer players. So the question is, where the hell are the newer players are supposed to make money? So why even play that
Hmm.
game? You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Right.
so and the third aspect, also very important, they forgot about the fun aspect of gaming. So for them, many people started treating it like a casino, which it's not supposed to be. In our case, we're doing skilled competitive matchmaking. And skill-based matchmaking allows for a more fair and balanced playing field. So you're not going to be playing against the person who has been playing for 10,000 hours. You're going to be playing against the person who has played for as long as you did, so that both of you have equal chances of winning. But if you've been learning your striking arsenal and timing and so on and so forth, you're probably going to win because you know how to play. Um, so when it comes to GameFi, I think it needs more game. It has enough.
Absolutely.
It has enough fire in it already, but it needs more game, and that's kind of what we're doing here. And another thing is, it needs more fresh blood, which is exactly what all we're also doing here. It needs to bring people outside the ecosystem into this ecosystem instead of trying to recycle people who used to play this game fight to now play your game
Hmm.
fight, because then these people become more and more expensive to manage, and to bring on
Right.
board and to handle, and that's just not worth it. Why? Make it fun, make it good. The biggest challenge that is in front of GameFi industry in the next year is, first of all, the regulators. Gladly, we got our crypto license first thing as we started our company, but most of these GameFi projects, they don't have any regulation whatsoever. They are registered somewhere in Emirates and East Asia, and they never had a second thought about that. I wanted to do that myself initially, but my co-founder Dmitry did not let me. He said, "No, dude, we're not doing this. We're going full regulated, full centralized. Doesn't matter, because if people are making money from playing fucking games, might as well pay taxes. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah, like
Hmm.
it's not like you building a concrete structure somewhere in the middle of desert. No, you're playing a game, dude.
Yeah.
Like, pay your damn taxes. Anyway, so in our case, we figured that the biggest threat to GameFi right now is regular gaming going into GameFi, because that's why I'm very happy that we are already in this niche. Because take my word for it, year in, companies like Activision Blizzard, Ubisoft, Microsoft primarily, Tencent Games already is building a GameFi. They're gonna go in there and they're gonna devour every single project out there that has not yet stabilized. So for us, we have at least 12 months, right, to build out our own loving and loyal community, which in my opinion is more than enough, right? And to
Hmm.
have a product ready at a level where it's playable continuously and continuously brings people pleasure and money and joy and rewards their time and value they give to us with additional time and value.
Yeah,
That
you mentioned something interesting about the target player that you want to go after and you hope the rest of GameFi goes after. And this will kind of be the final question before we wrap up. And it's, what does that target player look like? Because a lot of the time in GameFi, they focus on the Fi aspect, and thus they focus on crypto enthusiasts and crypto investors, and not actual gamers. And the gaming industry is massive, and it's almost psychotic that they don't focus on trying to break into the gaming industry more, right? So is that like a market you guys really want to tap into for the first time in this space, and kind of prove that this works, and start to get their attention and maybe make that quite a bit of a base in your community? Or is there another ideal player out there that you guys want to try the game, or is it for everybody? Who are you focusing in on?
Mazuri GameFi, I would say, is for boys and girls at the age of 16 plus, preferably 18 plus. But I know for a fact that 16-year-olds are still going to play it because they do. The thing is, we're going to implement KYC if you want to play for tokens. And if you're not 18 yet, you're not going to play for tokens. I'm sorry, I cannot afford that. Um, but as I said, for boys and girls, 18 to maybe 35, absolutely MMA enthusiasts, fighting enthusiasts, GTA players, and people that are looking to socialize, because we have two main aspects of the game. It's the ranked system, which is essentially just straight up PvP, and the gang system, which is when players socialize in big groups and they go fight 5 on 5, 10 on 10, free for all for territory. And that's a whole other aspect of the game which we're developing right now. But the most important one is, again, the 1v1 PvP. We want to get that straight. Once that works, we're going to move on. So yeah, speaking of the player base we're trying to acquire, it's the regular gamers who we want to teach the Fi aspect, instead of going after Fi players and trying to teach them to game, because that's a lot harder to do.
Yeah.
And instead of competing for the crypto enthusiast, we are straight up just going for regular gamers, because we're building a game for them. We're not building it for crypto enthusiasts, unfortunately, because I understood immediately that it's not even worth fighting for them right now, because if they see it's profitable, they're going to play it. If they don't think it's profitable enough, they aren't going to play it. So what is the point? So I would rather look for go after people who will think that this is fun, as well as might be profitable. And our economic model, again, is made in such a way that it's far more profitable than in most other GameFis, because we do not take any money for ourselves. We just burn it. So the commission that is taken off of the prize pool in the tournament, or off of the prize pool when you and I are dueling, it doesn't go into treasury, it doesn't go into my pocket, it doesn't go into anywhere. It gets burned. So you get the full reward of the money that you bet on yourself.
Nice, man. I'm glad you think that way too. I think what you guys are doing is very exciting and will pan out to be, very successful. So, best of luck to you guys.
Thank
And
you very
where
much.
can people go to learn more about Mazuri GameFi if they want to get involved, if they want to join the community, if they want to get into the beta program? What's the best place to go?
The best place to go, I would say, is our Telegram channel.
Mhm.
Let me read it out to you real quick, and I believe you can put down the link in there.
Yeah.
Give me a second. Um, here, Mazuri GameFi. That's exactly what it's called in Telegram. You just search it up, Mazuri GameFi English, and there we have most information there. You can also go to our website, Mazuri.io, and in Telegram, feel free to ask me anything. I always reply, and I have an existent reply and always to questions, from people and about the project. So please join in. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
We'll be sure to put everything in the description below so they can find the Telegram, they can find the website, get some links to kind of direct them. And man, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. It's been very fun, very fascinating, and really cool the approach you guys are taking in GameFi. Hopefully, it'll set a new trend, maybe, of how to approach this stuff in the future if it goes the way you hope it will. So, high expectations, man.
Thank you very much, Brandon, and thank you again for having me. Have a great week.